This production is brought to you by Red Brick Media.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man walah wa sallama tasliman kathira amma ba'd. Welcome to episode number 6 of Quran Bites. Now, as we're coming towards the end of the first week of Ramadan, we find that people start to have a different perspective of their fasting and their prayer and their worship of Allah. This is normally the time when we start to lack in our worship. And you always get that dip between the beginning and the end of Ramadan. At the beginning of Ramadan, everyone's hyped up, everyone's energized, and you see that the masjid is full. But come towards the middle of Ramadan, that attendance will drop. And it will drop dramatically, and it will continue to drop until we get into the last 10 nights, and then it slowly picks up as people go and seek Laylatul Qadr. And so we're coming to that stage of Ramadan now when there is a dip in our iman, in our worship. And this is why I want to mention to you the next dua that inshallah we will focus on today, because it speaks about a very important element, and that is being patient. Being patient with the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Being patient with what Allah has decreed for you in your life. Being patient with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah Azza wa Jal mentions in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse number 250, the dua, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ربنا أفرغ علينا صبرا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. O Allah, shower upon us patience and make our feet firm and steadfast, and give us victory over the disbelieving people. This dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions it in the context of Talut and Jalut. And Talut was one of the believers who had a very small army, and he was facing the army of Goliath, Jalut. And Jalut had a vast army. But even though the believers were small in number, this is the dua that they made. O Allah, give us patience. O Allah, make us steadfast. O Allah, give us victory. And the reason why I'm mentioning this dua here, when we normally dip our iman and our worship in the month of Ramadan, is because part of worship and part of the beauty and the essence of worship is to have that factor of patience. Because sooner or later shaitan will come to you, or your desires will overcome you, or someone will come and whisper to you, and they will ask you to leave that path of worship, that straight path that you are on, of fasting and giving zakah and giving extra charity and reciting the Quran and making dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Leave it for other desires. Shaitan will come and he will whisper to you. He'll say, Ramadan is long. You have 30 days. Only 1 week's gone. You have 3 weeks ahead of you. The last 10 nights aren't even anywhere close. So therefore you got plenty of time. Chill out. Take it easy. Don't burn yourself out. Take it a step at a time. And by this way, he'll delude you into a false sense of security. So by the time Ramadan comes to the last 10 nights, and then even after the last 10 nights, by the time Ramadan finishes, you'll find that you didn't achieve the goals that you set out for yourself. Why? Because we didn't have this element of patience. So one of the most important du'as that you can ever make this Ramadan is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you the ability to be patient. The ability to be patient, to wake up early in the morning for the suhoor, and to pray Fajr in congregation, and then to spend the whole day worshipping Allah, even though you're probably at work, even though you've probably got to look after your children, even though you probably have so many other chores, rights and responsibilities upon you. Despite all of those hardships, despite all of those duties, you remain firm. And then you stay in that state of fasting, staying away from sin and evil until the end of the day. And then you break your fast. But the day is not finished. You remain patient. And you continue to be patient until the Taraweeh prayer comes. And then you come and you listen to the recitation of the Imam. And you stay with him until he finishes the whole prayer. And then after the prayer you go home, and now you realize there's only 2 or 3 hours left before the cycle starts again. And within this month of Ramadan, you give charity and you recite more Quran, and you want to finish the Quran not only once but twice, if not 3 times, and you continue to strive for the sake of Allah. All of this requires patience. And who is the one who bestows that patience upon us, who gives us that ability, It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why when you look at the example of the prophets and messengers of Allah alayhimus salatu was salam, you find that Allah endowed them with patience. That's how Nuh alayhi salam called his people for 950 years. That's how Musa alayhi salam stood up against the tyranny of Pharaoh. That's how our Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam continued to fight with the people of Quraysh for many, many years, until finally Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through his patience, through his tawakkul, through his yaqeen, he gave him victory. So make sure that one of the du'as that you make to Allah this Ramadan for yourself and your family is that Allah gives you patience upon the hardships that you may face in your life, upon worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, upon staying away from disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.